You're listening to Inside Real Estate with Irv Tremblay on Newstalk 980.
Irv, thanks for holding over the break. Much appreciated.
You're welcome, Dave.
We were touching in our first segment there. We're talking about a new listing. When you have a listing out there, a typical number of showings that you should see, assuming, again, that you've priced appropriately. And what happens when you really get no showings or very few showings, let's say over the first week, 10 days, 2 weeks?
That's very bad, Dave. Very bad.
It's a bad thing.
It's a bad thing. Well, here it is. You know, these days you get massive exposure. You get massive exposure on your listing, better than ever. Everybody knows about it. Buyers know about it. The agents know about it. So it isn't an exposure problem. When a seller doesn't get showings, number one is their agent should have told them the 1, 2, 3 when they listed the property and said, here's what's going to happen. First, we're going to get an offer. Second, if we get showings and we don't get an offer, we might be slightly high. And they should have told them up front, because it's much better to tell the seller this up front
before it happens and
just kind of spring it on them. They don't like that very much. Listen, with this kind of exposure in a good market, and here are the numbers to prove that it's a good market, nobody's coming to look. The agents are pulling it up online. People are pulling it up online, but they're physically not coming to look. They think it's way overpriced for the condition, the price, or the location. That's it. And I mean probably 10% overpriced.
Wow.
So...
But then the seller, of course, says, no, but I need this much.
Yeah, and we know that it's not what you need, want, or wish for. So the seller will always come up with 52 reasons why it isn't price. It's the pictures, it's this, it's the weather, it's the rain, it's whatever. Or they'll come up like things, well, public open house. And of course, we've been through the numbers of public open house. Only 4% can buy any house to come to a public open house. And then they'll come up with things like Realtor's open house.
Boy, I haven't heard that one in a while.
Oh, Realtor's open house. That really is one of my pet subjects with the MLS Association. The MLS Association hangs on to Realtor's open house. Can you imagine in this day and age having Monday to Friday Realtor's open houses where realtors will get in their car and they'll drive around to all these houses in this area and go through, and you can win some pretty big prizes there. You know, you can get some cookies and a 6-pack of beer sometimes, door prize, and you can visit and you can have coffee and you can look around at the house. And if you have a buyer, you can eliminate that house for your buyer. The top agents don't go to Realtors open houses, most of them, because the top agents are very well trained and
They're probably a little busy.
Yeah, and they're busy. And so if they've got a client, they would much rather take them to the house than go and look at it themselves, because sometimes our ego gets in our way. When agents go and look at houses and say, oh, you know, my client Mary, she just wouldn't live in this house because it's got too much oak. We all know that people buy things often based on a feeling. And they buy things that they
might not have thought they would have otherwise.
They would never have dreamt. There's an old thing that, you know, buyers never buy what they say they're going to buy. So when I get a buyer that says to me, Irv, don't ever show me a house that's a corner lot, and I find a house and all of the things are right on the list except the corner lot. Now, my wife Diane complains about this a lot, that I don't really listen all the time. But I don't listen sometimes because I know from experience in my training that I can take them to that house and they fall in love with it. And sometimes, well, gee, yeah, it is a corner lot, but we love the rest of the house. We're going to buy it. So Realtor's open house is not very effective, and it gets worse than that. If I had your house listed, Dave, I think you want me spending my mornings digging up a buyer and showing your house, or prospecting buyers, telling them about it, and more importantly, prospecting agents. And following up on the agents that have showed. I just got a sneaking suspicion that you wouldn't be very happy if there was this little camera following me around in my car, and I was going to look at houses and spending 9 till noon, Monday to Friday, going around looking at houses on this realtor's tour. Now, it could be lucrative, because I could be winning those door prizes.
Well, there you go. And you won't have to pay for coffee, and you might even get a muffin out of the deal.
But I wouldn't be working on your house. So we get sellers that always come up with reasons why they're not getting showings. And if you've got a lockbox on your house, you've got a sign, you've got a competent agent that you've interviewed, and they're telling you the reason you're not getting showings is it's a price issue, certainly not an exposure issue. Listen to them and make the adjustments or improve the condition or whatever they're recommending. Don't go to things like Realtors Open House or Public Open House, because the percentage of success in those types of things are very, very small.
Was there a time that Realtors Open Houses made more sense? I mean, has technology kind of changed the game in a lot of ways?
Sure. I think when I first got in the business, I think they were more important. We didn't have photographs of houses. Prior to that, we weren't even computerized. You knew very little about the house. You might get a part of a sentence thing, and a printout, paper printout, and you had to put them in a book all the time. That was a little bit before my time, but sure, they were probably important at that time, and that was the only way that you could look at houses, and it was probably the only way you could really learn the market as well. But I think that time has gone. The MLS system in my mind, and I always get in a little bit of trouble for this, the MLS system and the association, a lot of things that they do are things that make the seller believe that these are things that really work. It's a little bit like that smoke and mirrors, I saw a very interesting TV ad for CREA, Canadian Real Estate Association. And in my mind, it was unbelievable. I might get kicked out of the association for this. I don't know if I should say it. But it was an unbelievable ad because it said, hire a realtor and they'll figure out the utility costs on buying a new house for you. Now, if I'm going to hire somebody, I think that I want them to do a little more than figuring out the utility costs. How about a market evaluation? How about all of the reducing the liability? How about presenting your offer to purchase and selling your offer and turning up? So I'm just thinking 2010, and our association is advertising, the realtor can really help you out. They can figure out those utility costs. I don't think that really instills a lot of confidence in paying an agent $5,000 or $10,000.
Well, maybe I'll get them to swing by and balance my checkbook for me after too.
Yeah, I might not be here after this show, but that's how I see it.
Very quickly, I want to get a quick snippet in. We were chatting about this before we actually came to air. When is it a good idea to get a building inspection done ahead of time?
I think it's if you suspect your house isn't in top condition. Let's go back a little bit. The U.S., that's quite common. In the U.S., all kinds of people have building inspections ahead of time. And the reason being, most of the time you're going to face a building inspection. Why not have your own and get an opinion of this building inspector and see what's wrong, because the next building inspector may say the same, and you can maybe fix some things up that need to be fixed up. The other reason is often, you get these inspections the last day and you don't have time to make the corrections. So if you've got an older home, 1960s, get it done ahead of time. It costs $300.
And you can take care of business before business takes care of you.
Absolutely.
Website is a great resource for IRV, www.irvsells.ca. That's irvsells.ca, or you can call IRV, 790-3753, 790-3753. Good chatting with you again, IRV.
You too, Dave.
You've been listening to Inside Real Estate with IRV Tremblay from Century 21.